Welcome to Art for a Reason. My name is Blessing Azubike and this is Culture Make. Today we're at Rele Lagos for the Dua exhibition of Mind and Myth featuring works by David Ngaji and David Kaydee Otaru.
My name is Cynthia Otaru. I'm the Associate Director here at Rele Lagos, and I'm also part of the team that curated the show of Mind and Myth currently showing in Lagos. So Of Mind and Myth is an exhibition, just literally how the title is, Of Mind and Myth. It's an exhibition that brings together two artists with very different styles and just trying to see how the contrast and the connection in the styles can speak to a certain theme. Which that was the idea behind bringing the works together. So yes. I mean, there are artists that we've worked with before. They both have gone through our Young Contemporaries program. Ngaji was in the program in 2024. Otaru was in the program in 2021. So we've worked with them before, but working with them together was a whole different experience. And it was really exciting to see how two very different artists, that their practices are different, respond to this idea that we had. It was really exciting to see how in their own different ways they were able to respond to a particular idea. It was really good.
So my name is David Ngaji and I'm a painter. The title of the works I'm showing for this exhibition is The Tale of Patrick the Terrible. And The Tale of Patrick the Terrible is a story of the figure of Patrick that set out to do some good in the world but ended up messing up things. So that's about the works I'm displaying here. I would say the creative process in itself is a cathartic process. I see catharsis as a process of purification. And also, as regards to the work I did about Patrick the Terrible, there is a moment there where Patrick goes through this process of suffering where he then starts getting real knowledge, I would say. Because before then, he was just somebody that was locked in his books and just having only head knowledge, intellectual knowledge. But through that process and even experiencing suffering with himself, he then starts attaining real knowledge and start understanding the world better than he had known it before. To walk you through the work, you have the first work where you have Patrick Starr's eyes are so bulged out and his mouth is open. And I use that image to sort of represent a sort of awakening. I think there is an interesting quote that I think it was by Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher, that said that he told a story about a man who woke up suddenly and discovered that he was dead. And that story has really stayed with me because I think most times we just experience life. We are just going. We are not awakened. We don't pay attention to things. So that image has Patrick Starr just awoken to the world, and it's like, oh, how have I been living, and how can I make a change? And then it follows the next sequence where he then descends into the world with a book, and it just goes this process of when somebody's really interested in knowing about the world, you run to books. And you start reading, you start trying to read about a lot of things and trying to understand things, reading philosophy. And even from my experience, there is a sort of hubris that comes with that, where you think that because you have so much knowledge now, you're going to just change things. You're going to tell people this is the right way to think and you are wrong and this and that. And then after that, it has Patrick Starr then in contact with himself in a much more bigger, but he's inserting his hand into the wound. That's actually an image I adapted from Caravaggio's Thomas putting his hand in the side of Christ, But I think it's an image of suffering. And for me here, I see Patrick Starr's first contact with human suffering. That's when he really begins to realize that books are not sufficient. And he really starts asking foundational questions like, what's the origin of the world? who made the world, and then he starts talking about first principles, and then in his study, that's where he creates or he takes the very terrible action, hence the name, Patrick the Terrible, where he summons the ghost of God and kills the ghost or kills the spirit of God. And it's an image of, like, you know, an individual struggling with meaning. Because you could also, in a sort of way, see God as like the source of meaning or the first principle or the ontology of everything. And so then he wrestles with that, and he tries to attack that, thinking that by banishing that, it's going to, you know, lead to a resolution.
Purchase your tracks today.
So I think their roles in pushing the conversation forward is very in-depth. These works are very personal works. If you spend time looking at them, they're not just art for the world. Like, they're works that speak to very intentional themes. Otaru's work is talking about ADHD, how he feels having ADHD in this time, you know, so very, very personal, very honest. So I think that's what lending their voice and just being authentic about their stories, it's really important.
Hello, my name is David Otaru, popularly known as Kaydee, and I'm a visual artist and painter living here in Lagos, Nigeria. First memory of me creating art that made me want to do this full time was my toddler years before age 10. I never really liked anything pencils. I always felt it was a waste of time. Like seeing the other kids drawing and making art, I felt it was like a waste of time. And on my 10th birthday, my family did not have anything to have like a celebration or something. And my friend that time, he came around and he was like, let's draw something. And reluctantly, I accepted. And my first drawing was so good to me. And I just made the decision right there that I was going to be an artist. My personal experience that made me explore neurodivergence was after my first diagnosis and assessment of ADHD, I realized I was diagnosed with ADHD, and life made more sense to me, and I understood that it wasn't as complicated as I thought. My brain just operated differently. So after a few years of research, I wanted to create art with this experience, and it wasn't easy at first, you know, being this vulnerable and bringing out a part of me that a lot of people don't know about. So I had to be really intentional about it, and I thought of different ways that I could create some sort of awareness and give people a voice. So I thought I could use art to give that part of life a voice. Favorite piece, which is the one behind me, Drowning Man, comes from a symptom of ADHD, which is task paralysis, where we don't really know how to prioritize. We know we have many things to do, but we don't know the level of importance in each of these tasks. So we are drowning in our own space. And for example, I want to clean my room. Something that should take 30 minutes can end up being 3 hours. I start with the bed, and before you know, I see the wardrobe is a little bit unkept, and I just want oh, let me do that. And I'm not done with the bed, and I start with the wardrobe. I see the floor is dusty. I leave it halfway. Before you know, I get overwhelmed with doing so many things at the same time, and I end up not fulfilling all of them with a short time. So I end up extending too long, and I feel bad for wasting too much time. So I'm kind of like drowning in my own space. So if you see the piece, you see the handcuffs, which is me actually binding myself, but at the same time, I'm not supposed to. So I'm like in and out of it, and I feel like, oh, all of this is so overwhelmed, and I might end up doom scrolling or getting distracted by something else instead of focusing on the task at hand. So I end up spending more time on doing simple tasks than I'm supposed to. So another piece is Cracks Make Room. Cracks Make Room is about learning to appreciate oneself, even when you feel you're not doing enough. Always tend to look back. So my work has a little bit of introspection and retrospection. So always trying to like look back and see how far you've come and how far you're willing to go and how far you're capable of going as well. And cracks me when you see a lot of chaotic things in the piece, but at the same time you see a sense of life and hope still springing out of that. So saying that no matter how broken you think your brain is, you can still create something beautiful from it regardless. The reaction from the exhibition was beyond everything I imagined. You know, since it's different from the usual narrative that I'm used to, I was skeptical at first. And on the opening, a lot of people were really, really grateful that I did something about this. The biggest conception people have about my arts, which is something I always look forward to, is the different opinions, basically. You know, I've seen people who think that I work with oils, but I don't work with oils, I work with acrylic. So the first thing people think when they see my work, they're like, oh, is this oil? And I tell them, no, it's not, it's acrylic on canvas. And I've had cases where people think my work is printed on the canvas. And I'm like, no, I just have a way of manipulating colors the way that I want. And there are people who are a little bit in between. There are people who are like blown away, and there are people who are still confused. So I kind of like that whole different perception about my work, which kind of gives me a reason to keep exploring and keep experimenting. So one final thing I could add, being neurodivergent doesn't necessarily mean that you are weird. You are a person regardless, and just because your mind does not function like the normal person doesn't mean you can do amazing things. The fact that your brain works that way is a call for you to do amazing things. So when people are calling you a procrastinator or you're easily distracted, you should find ways to do stuff that will make them reach out to you for a particular thing because of how well or how crazy your brain is and how you can offer solutions to things that they're not immediately thinking about. I suggest you make more research on ADHD and other forms of neurodivergence, and therapy works. Trust me, it works for me, and I believe it can work for anybody else.
The 3 words I'll use to describe this exhibition would be emotional, thoughtful, and sensational.
That's it on this episode of Culture Mix on Art for a Reason. Till the next art stop, see ya.